Okay, so welcome back from lunch. Hopefully we'll have a couple more people, come in as they finish up their meals. So this session is on inclusive. Oh no, sorry. Let me find where we are. Is on astronomy communication for underserved communities. So we have a couple of online talks, and then we've got 3 in-person talks. So our first speaker is going to be Niruj, and Niruj will be speaking about astronomy communication through 588 rural libraries, 5,888 rural libraries, a community initiative in India. So I will go ahead and pass off to our online speaker.
Thank you. Can you hear me properly? I assume you can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, but there's some drilling happening by my neighbor. Sorry about that. How do I advance slides? Okay, I got it. Right. So, hello everybody. My name is Niruj Mohan Ramanujam. I work at the Indian Institute of Astrophysics in Bangalore, in India, and this is work done as by the Science Communication, Public Outreach and Education section of the institute, which I head, along with a bunch of collaborators whom I listed here, about a very special program we've been doing for the last 2 years with the government of Karnataka. This is a map of India showing the state of Karnataka in yellow. It has around 70 million population, rural fraction around 60%. This is similar to most of the states in India as well. And around 70% of rural Karnataka students are in government-run schools as opposed to private schools. This fraction is around 45% in the city of Bangalore itself. And there are computers in presumably 20% of these government schools in rural Karnataka, of whom roughly half will not be working. Okay, so that's the context in which we are. Not only that, there is a huge difference across the state of Karnataka as well. Here I showed you the literacy rate. Literacy rate in the map of Karnataka. Bangalore is the dark green region on the bottom right, and the red, as you can. So there's a clear a southwest northeast axis of inequality as things get progressively, and many human development indices get progressively worse in this as you go from south to the northeast, and therefore this is the context in which rural Karnataka operates. Therefore, can we make a difference to this inequality over large scale over time is the question. Yeah. So therefore, the reason we started working with the rural Karnataka is partly motivated by that, partly also because, as you know, rural regions have darker skies than urban. The older generation still remember astronomy as a part of culture, tradition, sometimes also astrology, religion, and so on. But there is some basic awareness of astronomy in some context or the other among the older generation, which we can use in the rural areas. So also because there's so much deficit in various forms, there's also enormous potential for impact and to promote scientific temper and rationality, critical thinking, and so on. But to do this over a rural region of a state as big as Karnataka, in a country as large as India, of course, you need government support for access. You need to also do this project completely in the local language of the state, that is Kannada. English will not work when you go out of big cities, and it also both of these can present various challenges. Yeah. So therefore, what we decided to do was to work with the state government of Karnataka, and especially their rural development and Panchayat Raj department. Panchayat Raj is basically the local government set up in India. And this rural development Panchayat Raj department of the government, state government, runs around 6,000 rural libraries, or otherwise called Arivu Kendras. Now, these are run under a library supervisor who's a government employee, a permanent government employee. And these libraries serve as a community hub and not just as a reading library. I showed you photographs not connected to astronomy of various activities happening in these rural libraries. And you can see that it caters to all ages. The library supervisors are trained to organize community events for all ages of all kinds. Could be drop-in places, could be training for older people to use cell phones. It could be a place where teenagers come and study for competitive examinations. There could be special programs for school children, and so on and so forth. And therefore, this is a great opportunity, we thought, for us to make a difference. And therefore, we signed a memorandum of understanding with the department a year and a half ago. So these are some of the UN SDGs we think we can make an impact on. I'm sorry, I can't read a lot of things out because the font is too small in my screen. Okay, so the objectives of working with the 6,000 rural libraries is the following. One is to promote astronomy in the rural regions of the state of Karnataka, to promote especially hands-on activities which don't cost much, with a low cost or maybe no cost at all. Capacity building for the library supervisors, so they in turn can go ahead and talk about astronomy with confidence in the local communities. And I'll show you how we have achieved that. A focus on community-based events rather than events focused only on school children, as you would in schools and colleges, and also kind of enthuse rural students in STEM education, and also utilize the dark skies of the rural region effectively. So what we did are the following. So of course we worked fully in the Kannada language, which is the language spoken in the state of Karnataka, the official language of the state, and what is the and pretty much the main lingua franca of in the rural areas of the state. And therefore finding people in our institute itself and outside who can help us with doing astronomy in Kannada accurately was something we had to work on initially. We also then conducted training workshops for librarians in coordination with the government. We conducted around 4 or 5 so far over the last few years. And these are, for example, on the zero shadow day, a basic hands-on activities in astronomy, or the total lunar eclipse of last year, 7 September, and so on. And we are now and initially we had these workshops in southern Karnataka because that's easier logistically, but realizing the fact that there is this inequality access, we are now working with the government to organize these workshops in northern Karnataka as well. So that's where there'll be maximum impact, right? And these are some of the things we did. For example, during total lunar eclipse, we printed posters in Kannada about explaining the eclipse. In India, eclipses are associated with superstition. They say a tradition says you cannot go out and see the eclipse, you cannot eat during the eclipse, pregnant women cannot go out at all, and so on. And therefore, since the last 50 years, many science communication groups in India have been fighting against this. So did we during the total lunar eclipse of 7 September last year. And as a result of which, you see some of the photos, the top left photo, for example, the library supervisors got enough knowledge from us about the science behind the eclipse and how to counter or handle superstitions and traditions about the eclipse. And they came back to us saying, look, we made the villagers go out and see the eclipse, and we were able to answer the questions about why it's okay to see the eclipse and so on. So we consider that a really nice thing to happen. We also, so the rural development ministry runs an online studio, so we organize online talks once or twice, once in 1 or 2 months in Kannada about various topics, including space, because space is very popular among the kids. And these are transmitted live to all the rural libraries, and librarians see it. And then they also get some of the people in the library to come and see it together, and then they can phone call in with questions. So we've done around 4 to 5 of them, and each one gets around 30,000 to 40,000 views in this way. We also prepare video, audio, and graphic information in Kannada about naked eye events, because we want them to look at the sky and utilize the dark skies in rural regions. They don't have access to telescopes or binoculars. And therefore, when naked eye events come, for example, the moon gets close to a particular star, or a planet appears close to the moon, or two planets come close to each other, or there's the equinox, the solstice, or the comet appears, and so on and so forth. Or Mercury can be seen in the evening sky. We then make short videos or audio messages or video messages and posts in Kannada, which we then circulate to all the 6,000 rural librarians via the government, who then circulate it among their WhatsApp groups to everybody in the community. This way, it reaches a much larger audience, much wider audience, and pretty much reaches a large fraction of rural Karnataka through the librarians as the custodians of this information. So that's something we've been getting good feedback on, and many people say, oh, I actually went and saw the sky for the first time, and I could actually see Jupiter. I didn't know I could see Jupiter at all, and things like that. So there's been good feedback about this, and this is something we continue. For example, on 8th June, I'm sure many of you know that Venus and Jupiter are going to get within 1 degree of each other. So that's something we are now working on next. We also prepare activity sheets and tutorials, which are again low cost or no cost at all. For example, one of them is we told them to go outside, go to the terrace, draw the western horizon on a piece of paper, and then mark the sunset point every week and bring it to us later. During the eclipse, we asked them to use idlis, which is a popular steamed dish in South India, a bit like I don't know, maybe donuts, or something, a circular dish, and cut them into the shapes they see in the lunar eclipse over time, and so on. And so many people did this and came back to us with photos, very excited, right? Or zero shadow day, we gave them block-wise timings and dates of zero shadow day, saying please go look at it and things like that. And I'll show you a little bit about the results for that. We also then had in-person events in some libraries. We are limited based on our logistics constraints, but we now realize that it's important. So we're going to start going to at least the nearby libraries this year, and also conduct more workshops in the northern region. So this is what we've been doing for the last 1.5 years. What has been the impact? The map on the left, top left, shows, for example, the rural librarians who conducted the Zero Shadow Day event at their location after coming to our workshop, after getting our material, after listening to us on the online YouTube channel, and so on and so forth. Around 180 of them last year. This year we concentrated on northern Karnataka, so we're still collecting information. The lunar eclipse, more than 100 librarians said they organized eclipses. Of course, the total number of libraries 6,000, so we're only reaching a fraction of them. But I think but then we hope that with the work with us over year after year, we'll increase this number more and more to reach a few thousand at the end of maybe a couple of years. It's a work in progress. So we're happy with the numbers we got last year, but we need to keep improving on it with some strategies. Basically, the librarians keep asking us for more information. They want more hands-on workshops. People who attended our workshops said they went back and tried things themselves. For example, when our institute had open day, which is basically a National Science Day in India, we invited 3 of the very active librarians to come with their students, and we set up a stall for them, and they brought their own small cardboard and paper models of the eclipse and the face of the moon they had made, following what we had taught them, and they're very proud to show them, and so on and so forth. So that's happening. The students write letters to us. Some of them write letters. Some of the people there write letters to us, especially after the eclipse, saying, this is what they saw. They're very happy to have seen it. They draw the eclipse to us for us, and so on and so forth. So we haven't been able to do much quantitative feedback yet, because we're waiting for the government to release its app. This app will be for all rural librarians, and working with all institutions and NGOs which work with them, including us. And they say that after that happens, we can get more feedback from there in terms of each village and then we can make more quantitative feedback. Right now, the feedback is more qualitative, except for the fact that these maps I showed you, for example, where we know how many activities happened about each type. Right. So what have we learned so far? I'm not looking at the timing. I hope somebody is. So we learned that the community libraries have huge potential in making astronomy and science in general accessible to the rural community. Karnataka is fortunate to have an excellent rural library network. Many states do not. But I urge everybody to explore community libraries or rural libraries in your own place if they exist, because they seem to be not just a place to take books and read, but also community hubs. And I think it's a very interesting way to reach out to people with using already existing infrastructure, because it's difficult to create new infrastructure in rural areas, but whatever exists already we should be making use of effectively. And I think this is one such way. And I think this is something we all realize. If you want to work on scale, if you want to reach millions of people, there's no option but to work with the government. Working with the government can be very challenging as well, but then it's also finally rewarding, because we can then work at a scale which nobody else can. So to conclude, what is the path ahead? We are now trying to hire people specifically for this project, so that they'll be fully working in my team on this project. We want to have more in-person events and workshops in North and Northeast Karnataka, where you saw things are people are more disadvantaged than in southern part of the state. Create more activity sheets, low-cost activities, material, tutorials, etc. We're now awaiting funding for a government project to develop low-cost kits for rural areas. Once that money comes in, we want to develop small kits that can be placed in each library. We are, like I said, waiting for formal feedback mechanism by the government through the app. Once it comes, we'll get much more data back from the people. And like I said, we're trying to develop a low-cost astronomy kit. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Niruj, for that talk. So I will first open it up. We have time for 1 or 2 small questions, if anyone in the room has a question.
Thanks very much for that excellent presentation. Your last point there about the cost, low-cost kit. So have you done any research on what the price point is, and how do you work out what price point is acceptable to these types of communities?
Right. So when I say low cost, the cost we expect will be borne by the government, not by the communities themselves. Right. So we're thinking of typically maybe a few thousand rupees, which translates to a few tens of euros, as the low cost version, which will have things made of cardboard and paper and plastic and things like that. But more about things you can do with them, rather than take them out and do things, measuring shadows, things like that, and building small kits to explain concepts and so on. But we expect that the cost will be borne by the rural department of the government, and they'll buy them for these libraries. We're also trying to see if we can get funding from external sources, including the government and CSR and corporate social responsibility funds, to fund it. The idea is not that they pay for it. The idea is that somebody else pays it for them. If that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. Were there any questions online? I don't see any notes online for online questions. So let's thank our speaker
Thank you.
again. And okay, our next speaker is going to be Priya Shah. And I apologize in advance that I am going to mispronounce the start of the title of your talk. Chekhumukhi, Astronomy Newsletters to Supplement Science Curricula in India. So Priya, you can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I hope I'm audible. All's fine? Hello?
You sound good. All good.
Okay, great. Yeah. So, okay, I need to go to the title slide. Could you get me there? Okay, so I just use the pointer. Yeah. I'm on the title slide, right? Or I can see another overlapping thing? Oh, that's it. Okay. Yeah. So hello, everyone. I'm Priya Shah, and I basically teach at the university in a city called Hyderabad, not very far from where Neeraj is. And actually, I'd be happy with Neeraj. He actually set the stage because, yes, in India, there's a very big divide between the urban and the rural, right? So urban India is super developed. Students are exposed to a lot of things. They, have access to not just the internet, but a lot of other resources. And therefore, if you'd see that our urban students in urban India, they are, very well equipped. They do have good access to information. And especially now, since there's so much of astronomy information available online, it really gives them a very good upper hand. Okay. But now, like Neeraj mentioned, the problem is in rural India. Okay. Now, Chekhumukhi is basically a shining stone. Okay. It basically means that. So this is actually a flagship program which is run by the Jana Vigyan Vedika, which is something like a people's science forum. And this people's science forum is basically led by university teachers from Osmania University, which is located in Hyderabad. This is the state of Telangana. Okay, Telangana is very close to Karnataka, where Neeraj belongs, and in Telangana, in South India, the literacy levels on the whole are very high. Okay, you have a lot of literate audience, but obviously because of the same reasons that even Neeraj mentioned, there's a very big divide between urban rural, and therefore in rural India there's a lot of superstition in people, and there's a lot of blind beliefs, and a lot of what we'd call bad astronomy, which people actually know. So you have like was mentioned, Neeraj mentioned, things about even simple things like the eclipse, where people fear an eclipse, that you cannot eat during an eclipse, and you cannot look at the sun during an eclipse, or the moon, whatever. And a lot of things about people being tagged as witches, and all kinds of beliefs of that kind. And therefore it's obviously very essential for us to step in and play a role. So the work I do is basically with this group called Jana Vigyan Vedika, and what they basically do is that they have a newsletter which is given out all through the districts of rural Telangana, where you have it in a this is given in the form of a hard copy. Okay, this is one of the these things which you can see. And basically it's a Telugu language monthly journal, okay, for school children. It's been published since 1990. It's super old. And the thing is that the idea being that if this is for students who do not have access to the internet, etc., you at least have this available to them in the form of this newsletter, which comes to their school library every month, and they can actually read through it. So the idea is that it's basically done in Telugu, but I do not belong to the state of Telangana, so I do not know Telugu. So they actually kind of gave me a concession of letting me write in English. So I still write in English because I do not know Telugu. And these guys were very encouraging in the sense they said, oh, it's fine. At least the students can even learn English. So I've been writing this for the past 5 years. I've been writing for this newsletter, and this means writing an article, 1 or 2 articles every month. okay, for the past 5 years. That's what I've been doing. Now, so this is a very traditional, classic way of doing it. But because a lot of these students gradually now, India, many of them do have smartphones, access to the, to the internet. So what I have also done is, one is the digital one, one is the print one, which is one I showed you. And now I've also gone digital, in the sense, on my YouTube channel, I actually have uh, I make videos of the same articles. I make videos which I put up on the YouTube channel, and in terms of what are called Astro Bits and Astrocon. So Astro Bits is basically astronomy news. For example, last month I done it on Artemis 2, right? So that's Astro news, what's happening. While Astro concepts could be concepts in astronomy, ranging from zero shadow day to, even I had one on flight paths, or even on on working of telescopes, or concepts in astronomy. So that is Astrocon. So both these there are there. What I do is I put it up on my YouTube page, and then the QR code for the thing is printed with the article, so that if the students are in a position to access the net, then not only do they access the print one, they can also access the digital one on YouTube. I've also put this up on Spotify also as a podcast, so that somebody who doesn't get any Chekhumukhi also, they can actually directly access my Spotify podcast, which is called Shrishti. And the same material which I put up for Chekhumukhi every month, it comes up on Spotify podcast, so that people can directly access it through the Spotify podcast, which also gives them then a link to the newsletter, so they can use both of them. Another thing which I do to encourage interaction is that I actually let them. That my phone number is there, so people can actually ask me whatever they want to ask on WhatsApp. And I think in the day I at least get at least 5 messages from students asking me various questions, either based on the material that I put on Chekhumukhi, or something that they saw or heard of. So I constantly have these students on a one-to-one basis, where they actually interact and ask questions and do things of that kind. So in short, some of them even ask for career advice. It's not just astronomy concepts and news. It could be even career advice, that I'm studying this and I would like to uh, you know uh, even things like I want to become an astronaut, or I want to do something in the space program, or I want to study astronomy. So in short, I can actually give them career guidance. Because, like, if you see, it is ask me anything, so you can ask me anything, and I can actually this thing. I've even had some girls who've actually written to me asking me that that they're having problems in their homes in convincing their parents if they want to do basic sciences, and they can actually do it. So this is a very interactive thing. It works out very well, and with WhatsApp, it's almost on a one-to-one basis, so it works out very well. So the content of the this was the first article which I actually wrote. That's why it's one of my favorite ones. This is about the first Indian who went to space, Rakesh Sharma. So this was the first article which I wrote for Chekhumukhi 5 years back, and because so this was the one I wrote. But then along with that, there are obviously spacey stuff is interesting for students. They would always like to hear about spacey stuff. But I was also the co-chair for Women in Astronomy in the National Astronomical Union. So I like to also focus a little bit upon women in astronomy, and actually describing things about it, because I do believe that a very important component for women in astronomy is role models, right? So especially girls have to see role models, in the sense they have to see women doing astronomy, so that they can picturize themselves. Another very important thing is this myth which people feel, that if you want to become an astronomer, you've got to be this super intelligent person. You've got to be an Einstein like person, and only then is it worth it that you're interested in astronomy and you do astronomy. While I try to always convince them, the important factor is your interest. You don't need to often women face imposter syndrome, right? So you'd want to convince them that it's not an issue about you need to be super brilliant. Even if you're good enough, but you are into it, you're dedicated, you're interested, that's good enough. Because a lot of students I've noticed, especially the rural students, they always think that they are not good enough to be doing this. It is meant for super bright people. Yeah. Oh god, I better rush. So in short, Yeah. So I also give them some activities like making a Mobius strip or properties of the Mobius strip, etc. So there are some activities also over there. I also write a few articles, and there's a journal called Resonance, which is run by the Indian Academy of Sciences. This is a free journal; people can access it from anywhere. So therefore, if you write articles on it, students can access it and do it, right? So that's another this thing. So I would say that the advantage in a printed newsletter is its tangible, permanent artifacts, no technological barriers. It works ideally, superbly for rural India. You don't need power, you don't need internet, you don't need anything. But also we have to also now expand, like what I've done, in case you have availability of internet, smartphones, having a Spotify podcast, having this is the YouTube channel I have. You have to have a YouTube channel where you can see all these articles are already all these videos are already there, and students can ask their questions and do their things. So here is an image of the Spotify podcast which I have, and that's also working out very well. A lot of people are this thing, like I said, pros and cons. Print media has its own advantages as well as digital, and therefore what I think it's best to have both. So at present I'm actually keeping both on. The digital one will obviously remain. I don't know how long the print will continue, because, but as of now, it's going on fine. So I will say that the evolution of astronomy at outreach, it's evolved from traditional print to digital format. So in a way, it's a paradigm shift, but still, if you're looking at underprivileged areas, etc., we still do need to follow the traditional path, which I was mentioning about. So I'll end with this, which actually describes this thing. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Priya, for your talk. So I will first open up any questions to people that are in the room. Give you a moment to think if you want to have anything you want to ask. And I'll also check quickly to see online if there's any questions. Okay, so as I will take my my right as chair to ask a question. So I noticed that you kind of identified, a fair number of pros and cons of the different formats.
Yeah.
Have you, especially given all the digital ways in which you're communicating with students, do you find that there's, benefits to, YouTube versus, WhatsApp versus like the podcast? So that's like a lot of ways of engaging, which is amazing. And do you find that one has more impact than another? Or do you find that they are all reaching sort of their own specific audiences?
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So I would say, like, for example, specifically WhatsApp. WhatsApp works very well as one-on-one basis, right? Because you exactly know who's asking you, and you see the picture, you know the person. There's a 1:1 interaction. In YouTube, I think YouTube works okay, but YouTube generally the comments you get are people just saying it's a good video or something like that. But very rarely do people actually ask conceptual questions on YouTube. That's what I've noticed. YouTube, they generally say, thanks a lot, good video, something like that, and that's it. But WhatsApp is, I think, where they ask more important, pertinent questions. Even the Spotify podcast, actually, I even freely feed my email and all that. So then often I see they prefer even email, where they can, describe their question and ask it more detailed. So I would say that maybe WhatsApp is more personal, while YouTube and Spotify is more, it's kind of faceless, it's kind of broader. So that's what I've seen in my experience. Yeah. But I think
Another,
we need to keep all of them on, because there are countries where people don't use WhatsApp, or
yeah, so you're trying to ensure that you're, finding those specific
Yeah.
ways to reach your respective audiences. That's great. All right, so let's thank our speaker one more time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Priya. Okay, so I am actually giving the next talk, so I will introduce myself. But if our online chair can go ahead and pop up my slides. Fabulous. And let me be be good and start my own timer. So I will probably forget to give myself a 2-minute warning, but okay. So, hi everyone, my name is Jackie, and I am going to talk a little bit about our inclusive astronomy engagement programs in Australia. Now, my title is Senior Education and Outreach Manager, and this is for 2 different research collaboratives with researchers across 8 universities in Australia. One is focused on gravitational wave astrophysics, and the other one is focused on dark matter particle physics. So I'll be drawing from both of these in this talk. Apologies that I'm sitting down. I have speaker notes. I will babble if I don't if I don't necessarily follow my notes. But as you may know, Australia is home to some very extraordinary astrophysics research, from gravitational waves to dark matter, to radio astronomy, and some of it's happening in the Outback, some of it's happening in a regional gold mine. But while the science is world leading, access to that science has not even been evenly distributed. So for many students and communities, especially those in regional and remote areas, contemporary astrophysics can feel geographically, culturally, and personally rather distant. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about some interconnected initiatives where we explore how we can democratize engagement in astronomy by making science local, participatory, and human. Next slide, please. So what we've now I got to move my own speaker notes forward. I can do 2 things at once, I promise. So when we think about access to science communication, we often think about it as access to information. But it's not just physical access to a lab or to the internet, it's that social and cultural access as well. So Australia presents a particularly interesting challenge because our research infrastructure is very metro concentrated in relatively few places. And then there's a handful of more regional or rural research infrastructure projects. And we have these very, very vast distances. So in practice, the participation in science is shaped by, many factors beyond these. Next slide, please. So if we think about who participates in modern astrophysics, and when we think about the access to science communication, we often think, sorry, let me just move my notes forward. I can multitask, but in practice, participation is really, ties in with these other factors such as geography, representation, relationships, confidence, and whether people feel like they belong in a scientific space. So the question kind of underlying all these programs has become, for me and my programs, how do we make cutting edge astrophysics feel relevant and accessible to communities who may rarely encounter scientists directly? Next slide, please. So I'm going to kind of talk about 4 different approaches. So one approach has been developing long-term partnerships between scientists and regional and rural schools through our Dark Matter Regional Partner Schools program. So this program connects secondary schools with researchers working at the Stahl Underground Physics Lab. So that's the Southern Hemisphere's only underground physics laboratory. And this is in regional Victoria. So rather than running one-off outreach visits, this model focuses on a sustained engagement over multiple years, where we incorporate curriculum-linked lessons, authentic research experiences, mentoring, and ongoing relationships, longitudinal relationships between teachers, students, and scientists. And one of the most interesting things emerging from the longitudinal evaluation of this project is that the students begin to see science differently when they have repeated contact with researchers who become familiar and approachable over multiple years. Next slide, please. So what shifts is not only their knowledge of dark matter physics, obviously we want to introduce them to a little bit of that, but more importantly, their perception of who science is for. So we've seen students begin to identify themselves as people who could generally belong within science communities within their regional and rural locations. All right, next slide, please. All right, so another initiative is this, what we call the quantum and dark matter road trip. And this is in taking science to communities. So not every community is located near, quote unquote, near a major research facility. And near in Australian terms can kind of mean a lot of things. Like a 3-hour drive is still kind of near, relatively speaking. So another approach has been to physically bring contemporary physics directly to remote communities through this quantum and dark matter road trip. This traveling outreach initiative is now in its 5th year and involves researchers and science communicators visiting remote communities across Australia. And it's focused on highly tactile, immersive activities, hands-on, interactive demonstrations, portable exhibits, low-cost exhibits, and conversations with working scientists. And this is all in collaboration with local communities. Now, I'd like to note, Australia is very large. Outreach budgets aren't necessarily that large. And we've been fortunate enough to have Australian government grant funding for this initiative over the last 5 years. Next slide, please. So one thing we've learned is that accessibility can sometimes mean more than making resources available online. That's one piece of it, but sometimes it's literally driving thousands of kilometers to create opportunities for that face-to-face engagement. And in many of these communities, students may have had very limited opportunities to meet scientists or astronomers in person before. Next slide. So I'm going to kind of, talk about a third program, but it's slightly different. So a different aspect of trying to democratize science communication involves representation and mentorship. So one program we have is our OSGRAV Outreach Ambassadors. And what that does is that supports early career researchers in co-designing outreach activities and engaging directly with students and communities. So this program also supports the scientists themselves, helping them to build communication, leadership, and mentoring skills within a supportive peer network. So the benefits ideally flow both directions, that we have benefits towards our communities, but also within creating this this supportive research culture that puts an emphasis on engagement and trying to make science accessible. Next slide, please. So because often, and you all know this, the most impactful moments are not necessarily an activity itself, but it's meeting someone who makes that science career feel imaginable. So the fourth thing I'm going to talk about is, next slide please, is a new project that we're working on. So this neuro collaboration extends this participatory approach further by co-designing with Indigenous scientists and educators at the Gravity Discovery Center in Western Australia. So that's on the right-hand side, that's a photo from the Gravity Discovery Center. So this project's still under development, but the goal is to create an education program where contemporary space science and Aboriginal cultural knowledge can meaningfully interact. So, and importantly, it's not about simply adding Indigenous perspectives into an existing outreach, Western outreach framework, but it's about recognizing that communities already hold this deep knowledge systems and relationships with the sky. And this co-design process itself is becoming part of that communication model. Next slide. And I think this challenges us to think differently about what accessibility and democratizing astronomy communication means. It's not just increasing access to Western science, but creating space for multiple ways of knowing to exist in dialogue with one another. All right, next slide. So although these initiatives look very different on the surface, they share several common principles. They're all built around participation rather than broadcasting. So they emphasize long-term relationships, local context, representation, mentorship, and co-creation. Next slide. And in each case, the goal is simply not to explain astrophysics more clearly, but the goal is to help people see themselves as participants in scientific conversations and to create that identity within science. Next slide. So, what actually makes outreach transformative? One of the clearest lessons across these programs is that outreach is rarely about a single spectacular moment. What matters most tends to be that sustained engagement, those repeated interactions, the trust building, and the authentic human connection. And we've also found that place matters enormously. So people, especially our students, engage more deeply when science is connected with their local communities, identities, and experiences. And representation matters, particularly for students who may not have previously seen a pathway for themselves into STEM. Next slide, please. And I will try to wrap up these last few slides efficiently. So I just wanted to tie this into some of the themes of this CAP conference in terms of why this matters in the age of AI. So as access to information becomes increasingly mediated through AI, science communication is entering a new landscape. And AI can already explain concepts, generate images, and answer scientific questions. But these programs suggest that the future value of science communication lies less in information delivery and more in creating belonging, trust, participation, and human connection. Next slide. And because access to information does not necessarily create access to science, our community-centered approaches remain essential if we want the stories we tell about the universe to include the voices and experiences of communities who have historically been left out of these conversations. Next slide, my last slide. So ultimately, these initiatives are all exploring the same broader question: how do we make contemporary astrophysics feel personal, relevant, and participatory for a wider range of communities? And because astrophysics becomes truly transformative when people are not simply learning about the universe, but can genuinely see themselves within the story we're telling about it. So I'll ask you to pop to the last slide because that has my contact info, but thank you for taking the time to listen. And do we have any questions? I can multitask.
I thank you for a great talk. And this is something that I also think about a lot, even though I am in a country that is on a totally different scale to the one that you are in. So what I was really interested is the part about the building of the relationship. I think once you're in a school or in a community, then I can see how that works. But I would like to know, how do you go about getting that far?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's been very grassroots for us from the start of our program. So I've been running, programs in Australia for about 8.5 years now, and I knew no one when I got to Australia. I had no connections, and I needed to build those. And it's been very grassroots, going to local level teacher meetings, going to state level teacher meetings, talking to the teachers, finding out what they need. Learning more about, where our curriculum links are, and trying to build, those early relationships with a handful of teachers. And we've done really well with word of mouth, because, teachers often know the teachers in their own local communities. There's often some, various small networks of teachers that I've been able to tap into. So it's been, very grassroots, just, getting there and getting where the teachers are and talking with them and building it up that way. And another question?
How you can communicate with indigenous people, because I see the map, they talk in the different languages, and you have to know about different languages. For example, for the Maori, they are elder there, and it is really hard to communicate with them and cooperate with their association, because they have their ethnics. And this is really tough to communicate with this sort of the people and connect something to their, local culture. So how you can do this?
Yeah, and that's where the co-design process comes in. So fortunately, we have, some, multiple connections with some Indigenous astronomers at various, in various communities around Australia. So with our co-design project, we are working with specifically the community that is based in that rural area of Western Australia, where we have this site called the Gravity Discovery Center. It is where the AI goes, so the Australian interferometer lab is. It's in out in the country in that space, and we're working specifically with them. The manager of that that center, he is from the local community. So the idea is that that's where the co-design comes in, and we let him and his community dictate how to best develop our the content, how to best tell the stories, and how we can bridge those gaps. So, all right, this has to be the last question because we've got other speakers. So,
we actually have one question online, if that's okay.
all right, you want to go ahead and do that first?
Yes. So Megan Argo is asking, hi, Jackie, your work with remote schools is great. I wonder, do you find the comparatively high turnover of teachers in remote schools a problem for long-term engagement?
That's a great question because the answer is yes and no. So we have a lot of the activities we've run in our rural and regional schools. We've co-designed with some of those teachers, but yes, there is a turnover, which means building not just that relationship with the teachers, but also with maybe the science head, the science lab technician, the principal, so that you can have multiple touch points for when you get that teacher turnover. And so it's kind of, building a relationship with the entire school community, and in addition to working with just individual teachers at a school.
Quick one. So you talked about the distances involved and the time taken to get to these places. So how do you manage that time? Presumably you have to drive, not get a train like you do in Europe, and you can get your laptop out or work or sleep. You have to drive. How do you make sure that you're using that time effectively, and you're not fatigued?
So that's a great question. So we do go in groups. We have our outreach ambassadors that help us deliver those programs. So it'll usually be a car of 3-4 people. So but if I have to drive somewhere by myself and I'm driving, say 4 to 6 hours to get somewhere, coffee and podcast. So that's how. Yes, and sometimes and lots of chatting with people. So get work done just by talking with my colleagues. Okay, so I'm going to draw the line there, and thank you to the online chairs for that, for helping with that. So next we are going to introduce our next speaker. All right, so we have Hiroaki, and he is going to present Sharing the Sky, Reviving the Astronomical Heritage of a, sorry, I don't have my glasses on, of a Hansen's disease sanatorium. All right, great, here we go.
Hey, before we start, I just wanted to mention for the speakers, if you try to stay within the visual part of the camera so that we can see your face. Yes, like that. Thank you so much.
I'm around the center. Oh, yes. Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Hiroaki Isobe. I'm from Kyoto, Japan. And I'm basically a scientist doing mostly solar physics and spaceways and these stuffs. And I also work at the art university, so my job is to teach natural sciences to the students in art and design, which is also fun. And I was very happy to run lots of public outreach events in collaboration with artists in this conference. But what I'm going to talk about is it's very different. This is about my historical work on the astronomical and meteorological observations conducted in one of the Hansen disease sanatorium in Japan, and how I organized some event combining the public lecture and the stargazing event to pass down this important history to the next generation. So next slide, please. So I have to explain a bit about the Hansen disease. Okay, it's very small, I'm sorry. So Hansen's disease, or it is called leprosy, maybe you are familiar with that word. It is a disease, it is a chronic disease caused by Microbacterium leprae, and it mainly affects the skin and the peripheral nerves, and it can also damage the optic nerves, so sometimes causing blindness. And you may know the word leper, which means patients of leprosy. The word leper is considered to be highly offending and discriminating, so it is avoided to be used. On the other hand, the name of the disease, leprosy, is still being used as a medical term. But in this talk, I stick to the Hansen's disease because the Japanese name of that disease, which is called Rai, is also considered to be very offending and discriminating. So the patients, ex-patients in Japan, wish to avoid the name of the disease, the old name of the disease, and they wish to be that they wish that the name of the Hansen disease is being used. So I stick to that name in my presentation. So as I said, the disease has long been associated with strong stigma. And not only patients, but also their families have often faced very serious, severe discrimination and social exclusion. So although the number of Hansen disease patients has declined worldwide, the disease remains endemic in some regions in the world. But it is no longer endemic in Japan. So we don't have any new patients of disease within Japan, but there are so many new patients across the world. So efforts to combat Hansen disease requires not only improvement in public hygiene, but also in stigma mitigation and social inclusion. Next slide, please. So in Japan, from the early 20th century, the government adopted a policy of compulsory segregation of Hansen disease patients into national sanatoria. We have similar things in the United States called Sanatorium, and also there is a leprosy camp called Curium in Philippines. So there are similar policies taken in many of the countries. Unfortunately, there was serious human rights violations in the sanatorium in Japan and other places as well, including forced sterilization and abortion. They were carried out in the sanatorium. And the segregation policy becomes gradually non-relevant after, say, 1960s, because in 1950s, the disease became curable because of the discovery of the new nice drugs. However, the legislations under the Japanese government, which determined the forcible segregation of the patients into the sanatorium, was not repealed until as late as 1996. So, and the point is that, well, there are still 14 Hansen disease sanatoria in Japan. As of May 2025, they still houses more than 600 residents, and their average age is about 89. And the point is that they are no longer patients, nor they are forcefully segregated. However, the many residents were not able to leave the sanatorium for various reasons. And some residents have very heavy after effects of the disease. And some were placed in the sanatorium in their childhood, so they were not able to develop the practical skill needed to live independently in outside society. But most importantly, because of the stigma and discrimination in a society, they were afraid of living outside the sanatorium, or their family did not want them to come back to home. So that's why there are more than 600 ex-patients still living in sanatorium, and they are aging. So how to pass on their history to future generation has become an urgent issue, because soon there will be no one who can tell the stories as their own experience. Next slide, please. Okay, so let's move on to the astronomy in Hansen disease sanatorium. The observatory was existed in one of the 14 sanatorium in Japan, which is called Nagashima Aiseigen. And it was established in 1931 on an island in Western Japan, and at its peak, it accommodated more than 2,000 residents. Now we have something like 70 to 80. The sanatorium once had meteorological and astronomical observatory that were managed and operated by the residents with the approval of the sanatorium authorities. From 1935 to 1974, the observatory formed a part of Japan's official meteorological observation network. Namely, the observatory staffs, who are also the residents of the sanatorium, continues the everyday observation of temperature and humidity and precipitation and so on, and provided those data to the Office of Meteorology of Japanese government. So they are part of the National Observation Network. Until it was replaced by the robotic observation in sometime in mid-1970s. And that is about the meteorological observation. And the astronomical observatory was also attached to the meteorological observatory, and it was operated from 1949 to sometimes in mid-1960s. And in astronomical observatory, they conducted regular sunspot observation and occasionally stellar occultation observation as well, with very high quality, almost a professional level. And also they organized some stargazing event for the general residents in the sanatorium. Next slide, please. So why there was an observatory in sanatorium? So in Hansen disease sanatorium, Japan, residents with mild symptoms engaged in labors such as farming and cleaning and caring for severely ill patients. And some also worked in roles that made use of skills they had acquired before admission to the sanatorium. For example, the barbering and carpentry and sewing. And behind these systems were two ambivalent intentions of the sanatorium authorities. One is to provide residents with a sense of role and social participation. And the other is to exploit the labor of the residents. So there are two aspects, both functioning simultaneously. Unfortunately, the observatory largely served the former purpose, giving them the role and sense of participation. The observatory staff were very proud of their work, according to the documents as well as the interviews. And indeed, they were highly recognized from our society and awarded from the meteorological office twice for their service. And they were also the member of the Astronomical Society in Japan. So, and the picture on the right on down is the interview to Mr. Mineo Morita, one of the ex-observers, who are very proud of his work, and he agreed to show his name and pictures and the presentation, which is very unusual for the Hansen disease patients. So next slide, please. So I have to hurry on. So this is just showing some of the data. You can't really see what's going on there, but the picture on the right, above is the monthly sunspot records, and also you can see some sunspot sketches made by this observatory. So they are very, very high quality. So next slide, please. So I want to mention about one guy whose name is Yokouchi Takeo, or his pseudonym is Yoda Teruhiko. And pseudonym is very common among Hansen disease patients to avoid discriminations. He was the second chief of the observatory, and he played central role in promoting the natural sciences in the Hansen disease sanatorium. The picture shown here is a book edited and written by himself about the first 15 years of the meteorological observatory. And you probably can see that there are many, many tables of data shown there. Afterwards of this report, he wrote this. So next slide, please. Yeah, he wrote this. Those who take this volume into their hand should understand that the tables contained within this book are not merely rows of numbers, but that in each and every entry, the lives of the observers themselves are inscribed. It is our hope that this work will be used and valued in every possible field. If this volume may contribute, however modestly, to the benefit of society, then our afflicted lives will not have been lived in vain. So next slide, please. So I'm organizing an event in order to pass down this memory and experience to next generation. The lecture about the history of the Hansen disease and Sanatorium, and then we watch the stars, same stars, with a telescope with the same specification as the Astronomical Observatory of the Sanatorium. Next slide, please. This will be the last slide. Okay, I can't really see this. I just want to show you one poem made by the Yokouchi-san. In English, it says, "To I that had long since given up, the moons of Jupiter appears. 1, 2, 3, 4." This is a poem by the ex-observer, and this is an experience I want to share with the public and you guys in this conference. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you for your talk, and I'll invite questions from our on-site group here, and if our online chair can chime in, if there's any questions online, please let us know.
There's no other questions, I'll jump in again. Thank you, that was really interesting, really enjoyed it. In the UK, my sister works in a leprosy charity, and they have a publication as well. And this is possibly the type of story that they would be interested in highlighting. So I just wondered, have you done any other dissemination of the story internationally? And maybe we can talk afterwards about my sister's charity as well.
I think this is my first presentation internationally in English, but I would love to write something either in CAP journal, in Astronomy Committee, as well as the leprosy committee as well. So yeah, thank you for I will check about the leprosy journal. Yeah,
Okay, so if there's no remaining questions, let's thank our speaker again.
Thank you.
All right. And I'll invite our final speaker to come up. This is Panagiotis, and he's going to speak about DSpace, connecting schools, teachers, and the public through digital and inquiry-based astronomy education in Greece. So let's welcome him.
Thank you. My position is extremely difficult because we are a few minutes before a coffee break. So I'll take it into account. So you can see me here. Yeah. Okay. So my name is Panagiotis Evangelopoulos, and I am the Public Outreach Officer of the Institute of Astrophysics of Earth. Actually, the entire department of the public outreach is here, me. We talk about DSpace or Discover Space, which is a project till 2022 to 2024 as a funding by HFRI, Hellenic Foundation for Research and Innovation in Greece. And it was about the connection of school teachers and the public through digital inquiry-based learning in Greece. Next slide, please. So let's introduce ourselves. Skinakas Observatory is located in Crete, in one of the tops of Psiloritis, in 1750 meters altitude. Is a common research infrastructure of the University of Crete and fourth, Foundation for Research and Technology, last. One of its institutes is the Institute of Astrophysics. You can see three domes. At the next slide, you'll see, if we have the next slide, the new dome that is already been installed. The new next slide, please. Okay, thank you. So there are three telescopes, 30 centimeter diameter, 1.3 meter, 1 meter, and in a few weeks we'll have a 1.2 meter telescope in a new building, which is called Astro School, which will expand our flexibility in public outreach. And at the next three slides, we'll see the three telescopes that we have right now. If we have the next three slides, please. This is the 30 centimeter. Thank you. The 1 meter. The first, at the left side, the first telescope was installed in 1986. the middle one in 2024, and the flagship 1.3-meter telescope in the middle of 90s. 1995 was its first light. Next slide, please. So let's talk more about this space. So it's a development of a network of innovation and dissemination hub for astronomy in every level of education in Greece, using Skinnacas Observatory telescopes above all other things. And its main objectives was the integration of open science practice and scientific methodology school education, authentic understanding of scientific concepts through mainly hands-on activities, nationwide network of innovation training and dissemination, and the support of large-scale implementation of innovative astronomy education. So we install some school hubs, and their duties were the planning, hosting, supporting activities in which students, teachers carry out projects, serving as training and professional development centers for other educators of the local communities, and the supporting of nationwide initiatives. Next slide, please. So let's have a look at the map of Greece. One hub in Heraklion. Heraklion is the center for Fourth. One hub really active in Athens, in Ioannina, Thessaloniki, and two other hubs really important. I'll focus on them in Western Thrace, actually. Next slide, please. You can see that in Western Thrace is the border with Turkey. Of course, this project has its own website. I know that all seems Greek to you, of course. It has a detailed description of the work, many links inside this website, a full detailed list of educational astronomical scenarios. Next slide, please. Also a list of digital tools, which are really important. Of course, the flagship of this tool is Stellarium, a huge success in every part of the project, in teachers, in schools, in students, in the public when the weather was not so good. Next slide, please. And another really important tool was the airmass.org. Actually, is a really friendly user tool for checking the observability of a celestial object. Is used also by researchers, and it has also a Greek version by me in 2022. So it's also really friendly for Greek teachers to have can plan their requests for observations. Next slide, please. So all started in July 2022. The first training sessions for teachers of the hubs at the premises of Department of Physics in Crete. Of course, an excursion at Skinnacas Observatory. Next slide, please. Teacher training activities in all of the cities of school hubs, Heraklion, Ioannina, Komotini, Alexandroupoli, here another place of Western Thrace. I'll focus, as I told before, I'll focus on Western Thrace. There are really active teachers, and they've done really tremendous work. Next slide, please. So other activities for the public and for students at these pictures here at the second land, we have public outreach activities for the public in the terms of World Space Week, for example. These are university students of the University of Crete. Other here activities for children in kindergarten of Ioannina. It's one of the school hubs of the project. Next slide, please. Other activities from our department. We had here an installation of sundial with a unique sundial with a really mythological background. We established also the Eureka Prize for every school teacher in secondary schools in Greece and Cyprus. For example, this teacher here is from Ioannina. This is an activity for which I'm really proud of, because at this activity we show and we play board games with the theme of science generally. And one of these games here has the theme of astronomy. It's called Astra. We didn't make new games. We take games that are really existed to show to the people. For 2 evenings, we have above 400 participants. Okay, and I've never seen until 2023 an event like this by a research institution. Of course, solar observations in the distant island of Castellorizo, the concept of another event that is there annually. Next slide, please. I visited actually inmates in prison in Chania to give them the opportunity for something that they couldn't expect in their lives, actually, with solar observation and presentation of really simple astronomical ideas. Think about that we talk mainly for men with really low level of education. Okay, next slide, please. And of course, Skinnaka's Observatory has a tradition of 20 years and above of open nights. Next open night will be in 30th of June this year. And you can see some photos here. Think about that we have these events with approximately 800 people at the top of the mountain. Next slide, please. And in terms of this space, we created the solar system model at the campus of Ford. This is the campus of Ford in Heraklion with 2 scales, one scale for the distances and one scale for the sizes of the planets, with also details at their bases. Next slide, please. And we can moving on. This is photos from our PO event, public outreach event in Ioannina. Think about that. Ioannina is one of the few actually cities in Greece with really bad weather most of the days of the year. Really bad weather, high level of humidity. The Amateur Astronomy Association is really inactive. 1 or 2 guys are really active and they take their equipment to other places. So for 3 days we had really good weather. We could rent this inflatable planetarium, which is really expensive for the local kindergarten to rent this planetarium, and gave this opportunity for 1,000 people. 1 out of 60 of the population of Ioannina was in our event. Next slide, please. Yeah. Next. Thank you. So, focusing on Western Thrace, Komontini. Komontini is a crossroads of culture and languages in Western Thrace. At the left side, we have a Greek Orthodox church. At the right side, an Armenian church. In the middle, we have a Muslim mosque. Next slide, please. So, we talk about a multicultural, multilingual community with many challenges. This is Marina Mola. I am proud of having her as a friend. She has managed to have a funding before this space to create a planetarium in her school. And actually, her school is a school of minority. These are the amount of, these are the languages that are spoken in Komotini: Greek, Turkish, Armenian, Romani, Russian, Spanish. So you can imagine the high level of challenges. So we had strong participation from students of the Muslim minority of Thrace, and generally there is a high level of school abandonment. So we have to include them in the community. Next slide, please. You can see the planetarium from inside with the projector, of course. Next slide, please. Other events of like partial solar eclipse observation in Alexandroupolis, another area of Western Thrace, in Technical High School of Alexandroupolis. Generally in Greece, technical high schools, unfortunately, have students of really low level of education. So we want to empower all these schools. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. These are images of activities in Alexandroupolis and in Nevros generally. Next one. Sorry. Next slide, please. We've managed to share the amount, thank you. We've managed to share the amount of activities in different kinds of audiences, school, public outreach generally, students, university students, and teachers. Something really remarkable is that 80% of teachers before our trainings felt confident on teaching astronomy, and 66 of them have no proper experience in astronomy education. Think about that. We talk about teachers who are really thirsty to know new stuff, but astronomy is not in the Greek curriculum. So you can see that there is this kind of appetite to know many things, but at the same thing, there is this kind of confidence. And next slide, please. Before we end. Yeah. Next slide, please. I like these comments from students. It's final. I'm going to be an astronomer. It's definite. And I like the coloring of astronomical images. We show the process of coloring of astronomical images, the physics background of it. Thank you. So, astronomy is a powerful bridge among science education society. We need inquiry-based and hands-on activities, of course, through digital tools and training. As other speakers have mentioned before, we observe the same sky, and the collaboration strengthens long-term impact sustainability. And the last, believe me, the last slide for future perspectives. Small local initiatives can evolve into scalable national networks of science engagement. Through astronomy education, we can contribute to social cohesion and equal access to scientific culture. And actually, digital resources with experiential learning creates meaningful and memorable educational experiences. Of course, all these have to be accessible to everyone, regardless of geographical and social background. Thank you so much. You can see my email if we want to communicate, to collaborate in the future. This is the sunrise from Skinakas Observatory. Thank you so much, and thank you for your patience, actually.
Okay, so there's a couple questions that came in online, so I'll give those first. Two questions, and I'll just read them both at the same time. You can answer them in whatever order you like.
Okay.
Which specifically, are there any specific disadvantaged communities in Greece that the deep space most benefits? And do planetariums in Greece use AI and simulations?
From the last one, generally the planetariums, I suppose, yeah. Actually, most of the planetaria, the portable planetaria in Greece, as far as I know, use movies to show with specific duration, etc. Like this one that we could give to Ioannina. The school planetarium that Marina has in Komotini actually is a live performance showing the sky or with the chance of a specific astronomical phenomenon. She shows something about specific planet or over the moon, or something more specific in terms of what we have in as a news. The first one, the first was about
which are there, any more specifics about which disadvantaged groups that the D-Space program most benefits?
Yeah, actually, look, we talk about different places on the country. Sure, Western Thrace has its own challenges, okay, and generally, in the context of financial crisis in Greece, we can see and we communicate with educators and teachers, etc., that there is an abandonment of children by their parents. Not real abandonment, and spiritually, okay? So the unfortunate part is that most of the teachers describe me situations of violence in the house, and the difficulties on implementing knowledge to students is a minor thing, more or less. This is really sad. This is really sad. So actually, it's a great challenge to be a teacher in Greece right now, not only in terms of salary, and you have to manage all this kind of stuff through the knowledge that you have in your subject.
We will wrap up there. And if there's any remaining questions for speakers, they can carry over into our afternoon coffee break. And yeah, let's just thank speakers again, both online and on site, as well as the online team for helping with the technology on their end.
Thank you.